This is Jill Pack with the Seasons of Joy podcast. This is episode number 167, entitled A Conversation with Alicia About Becoming. Are you a woman of faith who is struggling to navigate your current season of life? Do you feel like life is just happening to you instead of for you? My name is Jill Pack, and I'm a certified faith-based life coach and a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I want you to know that no matter your season or your circumstance, it is possible to create a more joyful life, and I would love to show you how. Are you ready? Let's go. Hello, my friends. Welcome to this week's episode of the Seasons of Joy podcast. I am excited to share this episode with you today. I recently had a conversation with a friend of mine, Alicia Howard. She is someone I met a few years ago up in Spokane at a workshop we were doing, and we just connected. And so we've stayed in touch a little bit here and there. And recently we ran into each other and decided we wanted to have a conversation. And Alicia has her own podcast called Becoming in the Middle. And I will put links in the show notes so you can follow her and see what she's talking about. But for now, I'm going to share the conversation that I had with her, and I hope you enjoy it.
Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining me again. I have an awesome conversation today in the Summer of Conversations series. I have my friend Jill joining me. Jill and I have known each other for about 6 years. We met at Be Bold Masters with Jody Moore back in 2019. That feels like forever ago and also yesterday.
Yeah, all of the above. It's so
Yeah.
true. I think back of that and like, wow, that much time really has gone by.
It's interesting because Jill and I did not know each other before Spokane. We went and spent a week together. We didn't even room together. We had a couple meals together. We were in some smaller groups, I think, together.
Mm-hmm.
And I just really liked Jill. She was easy to talk to,
Yeah.
and she lived in my same state, although 2 hours north, so not super close to me locally, but we've just stayed in touch over the years. And I thought she's somebody that I want to talk with. So thanks for joining me, Jill.
Awesome. Oh, I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Before we jump in, take a few minutes just to share with people anything about yourself that you feel like would be relevant to what we might talk about today.
Okay. I am in the process of becoming. I am in the midlife. My kids are all grown. And really, when I started hitting that midlife is when growth really started to happen. And just kind of, that new season of transition and figuring out what's next. And as I look back over these last 6 years, I just never would have guessed at that point that I'd be where I am now and that this part of life could be so fun.
When you
'Cause
hit that midlife, were you approaching it with dread or with excitement when things started changing?
I was kind of a place of dread. My youngest was a senior. I remember I had just gotten my real estate license. Just kind of trying to figure that out. But it was just, I really was in a place of this is the last of this is the last of that.
Mhm.
I had older kids that were making different decisions than maybe I thought they should or would.
Mhm.
And so I was trying to grapple with life choices. I was becoming a mother in law. You just really aren't prepared for that.
Yeah.
You think you are, right? And so all these changes were happening. And I think I was really at a place like, this is not what I imagined. This is not what I thought life would be. But I don't know that I really thought much about what my life would be. That's the most ironic thing of all is
Yes.
it's not like I had this big picture of what it was going to look like, but I just knew this felt different than maybe what I thought it could be.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of women in our position, that midlife it's unexpected because we don't talk much about it. I remember as a young woman envisioning motherhood and being a homemaker and raising a family, and I envisioned that so much, but I have never taken time to envision what happens when everyone leaves and it's just me and my husband, and nobody ever said, "Ooh, what do you hope it's like then?"
Yeah, and I think that's I feel like we're trying to do different now. I think
Mhm.
there's enough of us out there that are kind of speaking up about it, but I just think that yeah, the focus growing up was always family and kids, family kids, which is a beautiful thing.
Yes.
I love that season of my life. I would never want to change that, but I think we goof up, I guess is the word I would say, by
Mhm.
not talking about the rest. I mean, you think about it, my kids were gone when I was turning 50. There's a lot of life left, right? And
Yes.
so I wish that I had been better prepared. But also, having said that, I think that that's what makes this season of life so beautiful is because I didn't know what I was doing. So the growth that has come, I wouldn't trade for the world. So even though I look back and that there were hard things about that time, I just think in so many ways the struggle and the challenge of figuring out what's next has been the most amazing gift.
I love that. How so?
I just think that it stretched me in ways that I just never would imagine. Like, I have found my voice. I have found confidence in something other than what I've accomplished or my motherhood or the kind of wife I am. I have been
Mhm.
able to develop a confidence that's different than the things outside of me. And I don't know that I would have discovered it without the struggle.
Okay, that makes sense. I think it's interesting. When we met in 2019, we were at Jody's thing and life coaching was kind of the topic of the week. And I
Yeah.
remember at the time, a lot of people that were attending that conference were very much interested in becoming life coaches. But I remember specifically some discussions with you where you were like, no, I'm just here for myself. I just want to learn. Take me from that point, and maybe that was when you were kind of in that place of, I don't know, this is different, to where you are today. And what was that process like?
Yeah, that's so interesting. So, I was right in the middle of everything I just told you about, like my kids leaving, some of them getting married, some of them choosing different things, me trying to figure out who I was in this season, right? And so I'm in the middle of that. And I remember coming across Jody Moore's podcast and just listening to her Better Than Happy and kind of going, what is this? Like, but yet it made so much sense. And so she was talking up her Be Bold Masters, right? She was
Mhm.
talking about it. And I had begun kind of trying out some of the things that she had said, just that idea of our thoughts and our circumstances aren't the same thing, and just how we can create our life experience. And so it was more of just you kind of become aware
Mhm.
more than anything, instead of living from a place like my life is just happening to me. It's just coming at me and I'm responding and
Yes.
reacting, to a place of, oh, it's more than that. There's a shift here. And so I'd been listening to her for like maybe 6 months, and she'd been advertising this Be Bold Masters in Spokane. And I just knew I wanted to go. Like, I just wasn't
Mm.
like, I want to do that. I want to understand this more because I craved that peace, that
Mhm.
confidence, a better understanding of how to create a life I wanted, but also how to create feeling good in my skin and where I was in life. And
Mm.
so I signed up. I didn't have anyone to go with. There was a big list, and you could connect with someone to be a roommate if you
Mhm.
wanted. And so I just reached out to one of the girls on there, like, do you want a room? And he said yes. So I flew up there by myself. And honestly, I think that was the first time that I've really traveled by myself.
Interesting.
I'd traveled in college, but I was with a group,
Yeah.
right? And then since getting married, I would travel with friends or my husband, or I just was always with other people. And this was my very first book the flight. book the hotel, go by myself, get an Uber from the airport, all of that,
That was my first
which
Uber
was
too, that trip.
yeah. So I was like, okay, I can do this. So even that was kind of a cool experience to
Mhm.
just kind of feel like, yeah, I can do this kind of stuff. So I just remember going and thinking, okay, I just want to understand. I want to understand how all those pieces connect. I want to understand how to relate to the people in my life that are driving me nuts. Because there was quite a few of them at that time. And so it's like the way I'm living right now isn't working. However, I didn't want to be coached. I didn't want anything to do with being coached. I just wanted
Mhm.
to observe. And that's kind of my nature. I like to sit in the back and just kind of observe and watch other people get coached. And I'd never really been around the coaching piece, right? I had
Mhm.
only listened to the podcast. So it just was all so new. And then, yeah, they put us in this group with people. And that was the fun thing because I think we were all coming from a similar place, whether we were wanting to be a coach or not, we wanted to
Mhm.
understand this better.
Yes.
And it was a bunch of women pretty much in the same boat.
Yeah.
Probably a lot of nuances, right? But like 50 women trying to figure out what the heck they're doing.
Yep.
And yeah, my impression at that time was all these 49 other women are going to be coaches because you could hear conversations among the other ladies. And I remember people saying, so what are you going to do after this? Are you going to be a coach? It just, that was kind of the buzz.
Mhm.
And even when, we were in those small group settings or the big group settings, that's just the vibe I got. They want to do what Jody does.
Yeah.
That's why they're here. And so that was not where I came from. I just wanted to watch, observe, learn, and not get coached. That was one of my main goals. Do not get coached. Just watch. I just felt like I was a sponge and I just wanted to just soak it all in and just learn and then bring it home and just live life and try to do what I had learned. But that really was as far as it went. And then I met you and so many other amazing women. And I don't know, I think there's something special about women who want to improve and learn and grow. And you
Mm,
put them
I
in a room
agree.
together. Right? You put us all in a room, and I just think it's easy to connect
Yeah.
because there's that commonality. We all are just trying to be the best person we can, and we want to figure out how to do it. And I think that's such a beautiful thing.
I love going to things like that, events, conferences, so many different reasons why people come. But the fact that they do come, I talk a lot about becoming on purpose versus becoming by chance. And the people that go to those sorts of
Mhm,
things become on purpose. They are intentional. There's a purpose for them being
mhm,
there. They're hoping to get something to improve something. And so put me in that room and I'm a happy
mhm.
camper.
Yeah, yeah, it's so fun, and, like, you just kinda geek out with the other people that are trying to figure out the same thing,
Yes.
right? And you talk about it, and those of us that do that can talk for hours.
Yes.
You just kinda find your people, and it's
Yes.
so fun.
Yes. So when you came home from Be Bold Masters, did you feel like you had accomplished what you went there to accomplish? Did you come home with what you hoped to?
It's interesting. I feel like we were in the same small group.
I think
But,
so.
as it went on and I kind of saw what coaching was like up close, that last day, I hadn't been coached. My goal was coming to pass. But Jody was the coach of that small group that day.
Mhm.
Like she had guest coaches and we'd rotated, right?
Yeah.
And I had told everyone that I just did not want to be coached. And so I still was just navigating this whole experience
Mhm.
and just trying to figure out everything. And I just remember Jody asked, has anyone not been coached? And I specifically remember Cami and someone else pointing at me. And I
They
remember
outed you.
sitting, they outed me. I was so mad. Well, I wasn't mad. I was more scared. But I just remember my chest was going to pop. My heart was going to beat out of my chest. And I remember thinking, okay, this is what anxiety feels like.
Here it
Right? Like I
is.
had, here it is. Like, it's not going to kill me. It's going to be okay. And then she coached me around a relationship that I had been struggling with. And so that's kind of what I ended on was actually being coached in a situation that where I was really trying to get some clarity and some tools to help me navigate it, right? And so I feel
Yeah.
like as much as I hated that, I didn't want to be the center, I didn't want to talk about it. It was the best thing because it did force me to really reflect on what my thoughts were about this relationship and how I was showing up in this relationship, how I was viewing this other person. And so to come home having that occurred, I felt like I learned some really cool things, but I still don't want to be a coach. But this is
Mhm.
going to be good. Like, this is going to help me do more of who I want to be. But I remember specifically, it would pop into my head every now and again. And maybe it was because she was talking about the life coach school a lot too at
Mhm.
that time. She was talking it up. And so I'd hear it. And I just
Mm.
remember, like, I'm not going to do that. And then I remember being in my bathroom. I can remember where I was just saying, you actually do want to do this. You actually do want to coach and
Hmm.
you can figure out a way to do it. And I just remember, I can figure this out. I do want to be this, right? I'd pushed it away so long that I just hadn't allowed space for the opposite to be true. And
Interesting.
so, yeah, it just was and it just felt good. It just felt good. And I figured out how to pay for it. I had told myself, if you sell 2 houses, you can do this. And
Mhm.
I was a new agent and I did. I figured it out. And so I was able to pay for it. So it just was interesting. It was almost like once I put down the wall of that's not what I'm going to do, everything kind of fell into place. The name of my coaching company is Seasons Coaching. That has been the name before I even applied for a business license. It just came. That's who I wanted to help, is people in different seasons. Like, as we transition into these different seasons of life, it can be so overwhelming. It can knock us off our feet and we can feel so disoriented, but it doesn't
Mhm.
have to be that way. And so I just knew, "Yeah, I want to help people transition. I want to help people move into the next season or just even the season they're in and love it instead of dread it." And so I just hit the ground running and I've just never looked back. It's so crazy.
So, looking through the lens of becoming, let's just take this little piece of your life. I mean, we all have
Hmm.
many facets of our life. As you're becoming a coach, that process of
Hmm.
doing something that you've never done, I'm assuming if you've started a
Hmm.
business, you've done a lot of things that you had never done before. At this stage in your life, when a lot of things come easy because you've done them for decades, and here you are starting something brand new. What has that been like as far as starting with a beginner's mind again?
Yeah, I think it's actually been a really cool experience because I'm at a point in my life where I don't have to make this business ginormous and make lots of money, even though that would be super fun.
Mhm.
But that wasn't really my why. I really spent some time like, why do I want to do this? What's the
Mm.
why behind this? And it kind of set the tone for the rest of the process. And I knew from the beginning I wanted it to be fun. I didn't want it to be a dread. I didn't want to be upset by it. I just wanted to tap into my why and then have fun. And so that is a mantra that I borrowed from somebody that's just, how can I make this fun? So from day one, any little thing I was figuring out for the first time, I didn't really think that I had to know how to do it yet. I think a lot of other areas in my life, sometimes it's easy to be frustrated because you don't know how to do something. You feel like you should know how to do it. Why is it so
Mhm.
hard? But for whatever reason, with this, that hasn't happened for me yet anyway. And that's not to say that I don't get a little discouraged sometimes, but for the most part, it's like, okay, I want to figure out how to do a website. What does that look like? This is going to
Mhm.
be fun to figure this out. And it wasn't like I have to do it by this date and it has to look like this. It was just, okay. And then once I did that, okay, how do I want to do emailing? Do I want to write a newsletter? How do I want to schedule appointments? How I'm going to let people know about me? Just every little thing was one little step. And so I think that has served me well because I haven't necessarily been in a hurry. And I think age does that. right? It's just like, you know what? Like, let's not sweat the small stuff. Let's just
Mhm.
focus on what I have control here. And what I don't understand, it's figure outable. We can figure it out. I remember when I started my podcast, I kind of did some research. I found a platform and they actually have an app for your phone. I
Mhm.
didn't have a microphone yet. I didn't have, and I just recorded on my phone, but I didn't know how to edit yet. So for like the first 15 episodes of my podcast, I bet I recorded each one like 50 times
Oh,
because I didn't know how to edit. I would record it and I'd stumble over my words and
you'd have to
I'm
start
like,
back
oh my,
over.
that sounds so dumb. So I'd start the whole thing over,
Oh,
including the
wow.
intro and the music. Like
Oh
it
my
just was
goodness.
like, yeah, it was, that's where I was until I finally was like, okay, it's time to learn how to edit. Let's figure out how to do that so that this isn't so hard. But it's almost like I just went through that process and I mean, it took a long time, but it was just like, oh, okay, this is just part of the process. I'll figure it out. And then you learn how to, yeah, make a recording of your intro and just reuse it every time. And so sometimes I do things the really hard way.
That's okay. It
But
still gets done.
but I think if anything, it's just that mindset of like, this is going to be fun. We'll just figure out how to make this fun. And if I have one client or 20 clients, it's going to be fun.
I think a lot of times when we are purposefully trying to become something, especially something different, it's really hard actually to not put pressure on ourselves to
Mm-hmm.
do it. Were you approaching it more like this is going to be a fun hobby or side thing? I mean, what was it that allowed you not to feel pressured?
I guess I would say that on some level, maybe I viewed it as an extra thing.
Mhm.
But yeah, I was all in.
Mm.
So I don't know exactly. And again, I think what it comes down to, what I believe is when we understand the why behind whatever we're doing, it makes the rest so much easier. What I mean by that is for me, my why was I want to help people find joy in their life, regardless of their season or their circumstance. I want to help people learn how to find the joy in life. And, you know, I'm a woman of faith, and that includes a belief in God and in a Savior,
Mhm.
Jesus Christ. And if helping people find joy helps find God or something higher than themselves, that's why I do it. It's a way to share goodness in the world. And so tapping into, I just want to put good in the world, made it so it wasn't so heavy. There's not a timeline to putting good in the world. And so it was, I think that helped it just be a little less stressful. I still have stressful things about running a business, but I
Mhm.
think overall, it's just when I know my why, I'm doing this to put good. That's my why. So if it takes me this long to do a thing and longer to do another thing, that's okay. The goal's still the same. And so I don't know if that answers your question, but for me, just really tapping into that why, I think has allowed me to have fun along the way.
It makes me wonder. I know the majority of the people listening to this aren't pursuing a coaching business, but I think the principle can apply with this question that I'm curious about. When you decide you want to do this thing, you want to be a coach, and you don't feel pressure, your why is solid. I'm assuming that you're also aware of all the other people trying to do something similar. Did you struggle with comparison or feeling like, "Oh,
Mhm.
that's how she's doing it. I guess that's how I'm supposed to do it." How did you approach that?
Mhm. You know, I think in the beginning I did, and I think a lot of us that kind of got into coaching around the time Jody Moore as she was growing and we became acquainted with other coaches on our journey. It's easy to look at a successful coach or whatever profession or thing people are doing, right? It's easy to look at them and go, wow, they've figured it out. So I better mimic them
Mhm.
because they have the pattern to success. And so I think in the beginning, I did kind of lean into that, but I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I
Mhm.
think we borrow from other people to get started. And then I think what really shifted for me was when I started my podcast
Mhm.
because I had to find my voice. I couldn't regurgitate The
Yes.
more I had to put a voice to what I believed, what my experience has been, and what I've learned, and you say it my way, then it just fits me, and then it's easier to go, "Well, how do I want my business to look then? If this is my voice and this is like it's becoming me, what does that look like in the day to day? Really is no right or wrong here. You just do it." And I think, again, that when you know why you want to do something, whatever the reason, when you understand it, I think it's a little easier to not compare and figure out how it works for you. But I think in the beginning, you do that because we're just human and we've never done this before. And so it's so easy to look to other people. And again, I don't think that's a bad thing. But if we just stay in that place of always comparing and always looking at how we're not measuring up, then we're stuck there. But I think in the
Yeah.
beginning, it kind of helps us on our way.
Yeah, I agree. I just did a newsletter article a couple of weeks ago about comparison versus admiration. And I what you're saying is so true because I'm so grateful for the people that have done what I want to do because they show me it's possible. If I can look at
Mm-hmm.
someone else and
Mm-hmm.
say, "Oh, if she can do it, I might be able to do it as well." And that gives me hope and inspiration. And like you said, someone to mimic for a little bit. Babies do that, right? That's how they learn to speak is they start
Mm-hmm.
trying to mimic the people in their lives that are
Mm-hmm.
speaking to them. And then eventually they find their own voice.
It's so true, and we don't
So,
get mad at them for
yeah.
mimicking. We actually
Yeah.
celebrate when they mimic. That is a lesson there. Let other people inspire us, and yeah, let's mimic for a while. And then as you feel more confident because you're taking those steps of things you've never done before, then you settle into what feels good to you and tweaking things that, no longer work or like, yeah, that doesn't really fit me. And you let it go. But you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, I totally agree. Do you feel like your journey of becoming a coach, how has that impacted other aspects of your life that aren't coaching?
You know what? It has blessed every aspect of my life, every aspect, because we don't know what we don't know. And I think I lived a lot of my not life not knowing.
Mhm.
But I also don't think we had the things available to us then as we do now. There's just
True.
way more education and awareness out there now than there used to be. And so I interacting with my own kids and their journey, it's that
Mhm.
relationship. Like I will be forever grateful when I learned that I didn't have to operate out of frustration with my kids, that that was totally optional to do it differently even when they chose differently, right? So that perspective shift has enriched my relationships with my adult kids in a way that I don't know if I could have done without coaching, right?
Mhm.
I've become that it's given me confidence to really be me. I'm kind of a quiet person a lot of times. And
Mhm.
so I people please, but by becoming a coach, it's taught me to be me, like be a
Mhm.
better me, more me. It's helped me be a better partner in my marriage. I remember growing up and watching the silent treatment modeled. And now my parents were amazing. I love them. That's
Mhm.
just what they knew how to do. And I swore I'd never do it. Well, guess what I did really well? The silent treatment. I nailed that. I was like the queen of it. And so I've learned how to actually have hard conversations and be okay. Like, and I'm
Yes.
still learning that. I think that's a lifelong journey. But I have a calling in my ward and I'm in situations where I have to address hard things. And if I would have had to do what I'm doing now 5 years ago, I don't know if I would have had the confidence to do it. Being mindful of other people, being mindful of other perspectives, it's just affected every relationship in my life. especially the one I have with myself. I used to be so unkind to myself. And I think many of us are, right? We say things to
Mhm.
ourselves that we would never even imagine saying to another human being. But for some reason, we feel okay with saying it to ourselves. And so it's helped me love myself in a way that I didn't know how to do. It's a journey that I will always be grateful for. And it's helped me be a better disciple of Jesus Christ. Being able to change my perspective and really see people as people and show up in the world as the person I want to be helps me be like him.
I think it's interesting because I remember 8 or 9 years ago when I saw a therapist for a while, and then I found coaching, and then I've coaches off and on. And a lot of times at the beginning, I would think what I really need, instead of trying to work on my own stuff, I really need to take like a parenting class because I'm failing at parenting, or I really need to figure out my body and my weight. And I would feel like the effort I was putting into my emotional health or my mental health was maybe not the best place until I had done it for a year. And I started to realize the very best thing I can do as a mother or as an employee or as a wife is to work on myself, because it does, like you said, affect every other aspect of my life. Everything is raised because I've raised myself to try to be better than I was. And that's why I think I love talking about becoming, because any effort we make to improve ourselves in any way, just even the smallest thing, will impact and
Hmm.
benefit every other area. So it really is the
Hmm.
kindest thing you could do for
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
relationship.
So good. I think I had an interesting experience that I've been thinking about recently too, because I think when we think of becoming, I think we do have to be careful that we don't view becoming as like an end game, right? Like
Yes.
if this is something I'm becoming.
Mhm.
I was coaching a young man who's getting ready to go on a mission, and we were talking about his why about around a mission and stuff.
Mhm.
And he said, I just know that it's going to help me be the best version of myself. And as I thought about that, and as we spent some time on that, it sounds really great. It
Mhm.
sounds really great to becoming, we're going to become the best version of ourselves. And on the face of it, it sounds great. And we're like, yeah, that's exactly it. But what if today is the best version of yourself today? And can you celebrate where you are today? And that's what I was trying to help him see. This isn't some end thing that when you get there, you'll go, yeah, I made it. It's a process. And so I think sometimes, I don't know, for me anyway, it's important to just celebrate what I've become here.
Yeah.
This is the best version of me today. And tomorrow might be another version. It might be the same version based on our experiences and our past and all these facets of our life. We're who we are, we're all of it. And so I just think sometimes the becoming can feel heavy because you're like, I've got to become this, I've got to become that, I need to get better at this. And that in and of itself isn't bad, but we just want to see the motivator. Is it so we'll feel better later? Or are we
Mhm.
enjoying the process of becoming? Are we seeing for what it is? It's a journey, it's not a destination. I don't know. That just came up for me. At least I did. It was when I'm here, when I can do this better, when I've arrived there,
Mhm.
then I've become what I'm supposed to become.
And I have been thinking actually a lot about that in the last 4 or 5 weeks. I talk a lot about becoming. That's the podcast, right? But I've been
Yeah.
thinking, does becoming feel like it also comes with I'm not enoughness now? I was
Mhm.
brushing my teeth the other day, and that's when my best inspiration hits, is while I'm brushing my teeth. And the thought came to me, what if it's not about becoming something different? What if it's that we already are the best version of ourselves? We just have to remember or uncover.
Mhm.
And it's just a matter of
Mhm.
taking what is already there and discovering it. I think it gets bogged down and covered up and buried by life, by our natural man tendencies, by the
Mhm.
nature of mortality itself. And
Mhm.
so I have been thinking a lot about the journey of becoming is first and foremost a journey. because I don't actually think that we will ever fully become. I don't think there's an end goal
Mhm.
because I believe that even after this life, we will continue to become and progress.
Mhm.
And so that becoming in the big picture of things feels very elusive to me. So, like you said,
Mhm.
it's who am I today? Can I be the best version of myself in this hard conversation with a child or with a
Mhm.
spouse or with my neighbor? I'm starting to change how I think about becoming, as, like you said, not something that's so far off into the distant future, and that who I am today is not enough. I have to be that version of me before I can feel like I'm enough, and bring it into the
Mhm.
now of I am enough now. I just need to remember and discover what that looks like.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that is spot on. I think it's a remembering because we came here with everything we needed. We really
Mhm.
did. It's just the human condition adds all these variables which are perfectly designed. I love Elder Renlund says divinely designed. I think the
Mm.
human condition was divinely designed to grow us in a way we would never grow otherwise, or and build those muscles of what's already there.
Mhm.
Everything's there. We've just got to uncover it and build upon it and grow it. Here on earth, we focus so much on the getting, right?
Mhm.
It's about getting back. It's about getting back, which I totally agree with, but we're missing so much of the in between, the
Mhm.
opposition in all things, the growing, the all those things are what are helping us develop those traits we already have. We just need the mortal condition to do it. And our heavenly parents knew that it had to be this way. And so it's not just getting back because we were already there. Why would we leave if we were already there
Yes.
unless there was something bigger and grander in store for us? And I think it's a remembering of the things we brought with us. And it's just letting go our coping, our tendencies to protect ourselves, all those things, just learning to let those go so we can uncover what really is already us.
Yes. The last thing I want you to speak to is joy, because I know that that is something you love talking about.
Mhm.
And as you're talking about this part that we're missing, I feel like a lot of people that I love are missing out on the joy. They're so focused on the goals of life, the goals of mortality, the goals of getting back,
Mhm.
that it's almost like the joy has been sucked out of it because they're so hyper focused on all the things that life brings. So, how do you think about
Yeah.
joy in this framework?
This idea of joy ties to what I just talked about. My belief is joy is the richness of life, which includes the hard and the beautiful. Right? I think of there's a little story that I share about my daughter when she was 4 and she was in preschool and she loved preschool, but she was super wiggly. She has ADD. So sometimes it was a challenge to hold still. And this one particular day, I went to go pick her up from school and usually she would run out and she was so excited. But this day she kind of walked out and her head was hanging and she's carrying her bag and she gets in the car. Jenna, what's wrong? Are you okay? How was your day? And she goes on to tell me how she'd gotten in trouble at school. And she just sat there in the car. I know her well enough that she wasn't trying to be naughty. This was a
Mhm.
genuine trying to figure out how to be 4.
Yes.
And she had to sit in the hallway and that bothered her. She did not like to get in trouble. So
Mhm.
I knew that she'd been punished really for what had happened. So I'm like, let's go home and make cookies. So we come home and I set her on the stool and she is just sad. She's just sitting there and I'm getting the ingredients and I'm, keeping my eye on her, trying to cheer her up. And pretty soon I can see her looking around. Like she's starting to like look outside of herself. And pretty soon she climbs off the chair and she's off in her room and I can hear her playing and she's talking to herself. And she comes in with this big pile of toys and she sets them on the stool and she's playing for a few seconds. And then she looks at me and she says, I'm happy. I don't think she thought she would ever be happy again.
Oh.
Right. And so I love that story because that's joy. He had the contrast. He had the
Mhm.
contrast of happiness and sadness, which made that moment so beautiful. Right?
Yes.
We've all been sick before and then we feel better. And it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful for my health. But the
Mhm.
depth of that gratitude or joy would not be the same without the opposite. And
Mm.
so for me, joy is the combination of the opposites. And that, a lot of times when we are stuck in the grind and we're feeling down and we just feel like life is just happening to us and it's discouraging, we feel like we're doing life wrong because we feel sad or mad or hurt or discouraged. All of those emotions, we feel like I'm doing life wrong. I shouldn't be feeling this way. When we can just kind of go, actually, these emotions part of the overall experience of joy. And we
Mhm.
aren't doing life wrong. I tell people if you're experiencing opposition in your life, you're doing life right. If we can kind of embrace that idea of like, you know what, nothing's gone wrong. This is part of the human experience, then we don't grip so tight. It doesn't derail us the same as if we're like, yeah, this is kind of a bummer day. Some days are like that.
Yeah.
How can I take care of myself? What can I do to care for myself when I do feel sad? And so to me, like goes back to that story in the beginning about how coaching has affected so much of my life. It's because the struggle has added the richness. And to
Mm.
me, that's joy. I can experience the happy moments in such a deeper, richer way because I've had the painful ones. They actually are just as much of part of me as the happy moments. The pain is it's just part of it all. And so for me, if I can help people see you wouldn't feel as grateful as you do for your health if you had never been sick. You'd never be as happy as you are as if you had never experienced sadness or depression or loneliness or any of those emotions. We wouldn't know how awesome the opposite felt without it. And so I just think, again, what a richness we have in our life because of the contrast. And I try not to say that in a way that minimizes someone's hard things
Mm.
because sometimes the hard things really suck and we're not
Yes.
going to go, I'm so grateful for this. It's not that. It's not like belittling something really hard. How does this help me experience joy? At some point, when I'm ready to experience joy, what can I take from this experience that helps me discover joy? And I just think joy is just such a rich, beautiful thing, messy and beautiful all at one time.
Yeah, I love thinking about it as a combination. I think I will think about joy differently because so often we think I have to get to the joy, but we don't realize the joy is because
Yeah.
we've gone through the hard
The hard thing.
or
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that scripture, right? Adam fell that man might have joy. They go together. It goes together. Like, I don't think that's just by chance that's in the same line.
Right.
There's a
Yes.
comma. It's part of the same phrase. And so the fall is actually what enables us to know what joy is. But
Yeah,
until you walk a painful path, we don't feel it as deeply
I
as
agree.
we can.
So many good things,
Yeah.
Jill. I have loved this
So many good things.
conversation. Oh my
It's
goodness.
so fun.
It's been a pleasure. And I want you to tell the listeners where they can find you. You have a podcast. Tell us the name of the podcast.
Yes, my podcast is Seasons of Joy, actually.
Awesome.
And you can find it anywhere you can listen to podcasts. You can find me on it's seasons-coaching.com. And I have a bunch of freebies on there. I'm actually working on a new one that isn't ready yet, but I have some good things coming. But there's some good things if you go on the freebies tab on my website. There's just some good tips and tools, things you can watch or print out.
Awesome.
So you just
I'll
go
link
visit
it
my
in the show
website.
notes so they can just click right to it
Okay.
from the show notes. So,
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
right. Thank
Awesome.
you, Jill. It's been
Yes.
wonderful. And thank
Thank
you
you
to
so
the
much.
listeners. Thanks for joining us today. And we'll talk to you again next time.
Thank you for tuning in to the Seasons of Joy podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And if you liked what you heard, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share with your friends and family. If you want to learn more about me or how to work with me, just visit my website, www.seasons-coaching.com, and have a joyful week.